Autism is something that affects many people, but the average person really doesn't know a lot about it. So we are starting something new, and I hope we can continue this. Here on North Dakota Today, we have Tiffany Topkin, the Executive Director of Empowering Kids in Perham, Minnesota, with us to, give us a little more insight. I know when I was visiting with you earlier, I said, I have a real close friend who has a son with autism. I have kids in school, and they have friends who, may be on the spectrum. So there's a lot of questions whether you're the parent or you're a parent, with loved ones that have friends who have autism. So first off, and I don't know if this is an easy or hard question, and I know you're going to help explain, what is autism? How do you break that down?
Great question. So before I get started, if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism, meaning everybody is a little bit different. So there are some things that they all have in common, and those are the things that we're going to kind of talk about and explain with my handy-dandy little prop.
I like it.
So each person is their own switchboard. And when looking at autism to determine if somebody has it or not, they look in three categories: social interaction, communication, and restrictive or repetitive behaviors. So within each category, there are a bunch of little knobs, and then these knobs can be all sorts of different levels, and that is what makes each person unique. So in social interaction, there may be one person who talks all the time and talks about the same thing over and over, but yet there may be another child who doesn't have much language at all. And so that's why every person is different. All of their individual knobs are a little bit adjusted, but they each share the three core areas that they have struggles in.
Okay, that's fascinating. Great visual. So that kind of goes into when everyone is different and everyone's, on the spectrum, but in different places.
Mm-hmm.
Could we talk a little bit about signs and symptoms? Maybe if you are a parent of a young child, how soon can you see some of these symptoms?
So it can be as early as 6 months. Reliable diagnoses are made around 3 years of age. So there are some signs leading up to that, but usually by 3 years, physicians are the most comfortable making that diagnosis. So then just to kind of, again, bring back the visual, in the area of social interaction, some things that you may notice with your child is if you're smiling at them, they may not smile back, not having that social interaction, that connection piece. Or if they're playing, they may not engage their peers, they may just talk with themselves, just the total interaction and play and communication in your daily life. And then communication, they may have what's called echolalia, and that's where you repeat the same phrase over and over again. It could be a phrase they've heard or a phrase from their favorite TV show. Some of their words and phrases might sound just a little bit unique, and sometimes kids may sound like little professors. They'll talk at very high levels. So those are some communication things. And again, they may not talk at all. So it's, again, about the knobs. And then the last category, some signs and symptoms, is transitions may be really hard. Getting out to the car may end in a meltdown, or being done with their favorite activity. And play is a big one as well, if they're not pretend playing. So if they're taking their cars and lining them up, rather than driving their cars around through a tunnel. Those are kind of things, or special interests, if they love cars, but they don't want to play with anything else. So there's some just signs to look for. If you have any other concerns, there's always, like Sesame Street has an Autism Aware initiative. You can look up their website, or the Autism Society of Minnesota or North Dakota. They have some great resources as well.
It's great that the resources are out there and the conversation has been started. However, there are still a lot of misconceptions, and I'm sure that you see and deal with. What are some of the main ones that you would like to clear up?
Yeah, so the prevalence rates for autism have increased, but autism wasn't officially a universally diagnosed condition until about the 1980s. So it's relatively recent in comparison to a lot of other diagnoses. And so prevalence rates seem really high, because when you go from 0 to anything, there's going to be a big increase. So right now, statistics are 1 in 59 in the United States have autism, and in Minnesota it's 1 in 42. And so along with the prevalence rates, misconceptions, there's always the talks of vaccines causing autism or lots of other things. And currently there is no known cause for autism.
We could spend the whole hour visiting, but we are out of time. So this is why we need to have you back to talk more. Thank you, Tiffany. Thanks so much for coming in today and doing what you do as well for our kids. Stay with us. Coming up next here on North Dakota Today, whether you are new to working out or you've been hitting the gym every day for 10 years, you know the aches and pains that can come along with trying to get that six-pack. We have some effective ways to roll out your pain next.